Locked On Network means crossover time. Locked On Jets and Locked On Dolphins getting you prepped for an AFC East Week 14 clash here on Locked On Network.
You are Locked On NFL Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another crossover Thursday here on the Locked On Network. I am Kyle Krabs of Locked On Dolphins, joined by John Butchko of Locked On Jets. First clash between these two teams this year. We had to wait last year for these matchups as well, but two teams that are very familiar with one another, kind of fighting for pride, really, at this stage of the season. But we'll get more into the matchups here on this Crossover Thursday on the Locked On Network. Crossover Thursday is presented by Prize Picks. Download the app and use code LOCKEDONNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. John, it's good to catch up with you. I think the last time we did something was the AFC East collective back in the summertime, and a lot's changed for both of these teams since that time. How are things going, and what are kind of some of the lead focuses here in New York as they kind of limp home here on the final stretch?
Yeah. Everybody out there, don't go back and watch that because I predicted the Jets to win the division in that one. So we could just forget that ever happened. I'm doing well, thank you, Kyle. Personally, I'm great. Unfortunately, I can't say the same thing about the Jets. I think we both expected this game to have bigger implications, I think, for both teams back when we did that during the summer. Obviously, a very disappointing season for the New York Jets. I mean, a team that is playing out the string in every way you can say it. There are, you could ask, like, what were the takeaways from their loss to Seattle? I don't know if there were any. It's just a continuation of what's been an incredibly disappointing season. And I mean, I guess we could start with the quarterback if that's where you want to go. We could talk a lot about all the team's failures. Do you want to start with the quarterback?
Yeah, I guess obviously Aaron got a big documentary coming out in a couple weeks on Netflix, but this from the outside looking in, and I cover the league, so my perception is a little bit different, but the expectation that even sufficient quarterback play with New York, with the defense that's been in place, and I know there were some personnel changes and some of the defensive line depth that is gone versus previous years, was going to set a certain floor for New York. Do you feel like Aaron has played to even sufficient standard? Like, what is the perception of his individual play amongst, kind of the Jets collective?
I don't think he's played to sufficient standard. In fact, I think a lot of the offense's problems are quarterback based at this point. Aaron Rodgers is a quarterback who has looked very much like a 40-year-old quarterback, and he just turned 41 a couple of days ago. He and Leonard Williams, who of course had the big pick six against Seattle, he mentioned this, and this is something I've noticed all season long. When you go back and watch the film, and I think it's kind of spreading through the league, is that he doesn't like to get hit anymore. And not that anybody ever likes to get hit, but I think you reach a certain age and it becomes tougher to recover from those hits. It's something Rodgers has kind of been open about. And he's, through much of the season, not last week because the Jets were coming off their bye, so maybe he healed up a little bit, but he'd been on the injury report quite a bit this season. There have been a couple of times where he had to go into the tent. A couple of times he limped off the field, and you were wondering whether the Jets may need to turn to Tyrod Taylor. I think it's a very much a case where his 40-year-old body just can't take the hits anymore. And that has altered the way he plays the game. He is trying to get the ball out as quickly as possible. You look at it, he's got one of the quickest times to pass in the NFL. He's not really throwing deep all that much anymore because he just won't let plays marinate because I think, he's nervous about being hit. And if you look at the amount of times he's been on the injury report this year, you understand why, because the body just can't absorb the hits. I think as the season's gone on, you've seen some deterioration in his arm. So his deep ball, I was at the game on Sunday when the Jets played the Seahawks, and anecdotally, I thought that a lot of those passes were kind of floating. I think that, look, he's an all-time great quarterback, but I just don't think he has it anymore. And, at the beginning of the season, he did look like a sufficient quarterback. I mean, the first couple of weeks of the year, he looked decent. I think as the years progressed, the hits have added up. The physical pounding of the season has taken its toll. and he's just not playing at a high level anymore. You look across the rest of this Jets lineup. The offensive line's actually been, I think, okay. I think it's first time I could say that. I've been doing Locked On Jets since 2016. I was one of the original hosts on this network, and one of the consistent themes, like you pull up any random Locked On Jets episode since 2016, I'll probably complaining about the offensive line play. I think the offensive line's actually been pretty decent this year. At the receiver position, you've got Garrett Wilson and Devontae Adams. You've got Breece Hall at running back. You've got weapons. I think a lot of the problems with the offense are quarterback based.
And I'm glad you went to the offensive line, because I know the run games had some hardships as far as staying on schedule, and Breece Hall has been banged up as well. But I wanted to ask you about Olu Fashanu in particular, the rookie tackle who the Jets took with a top 12 pick. And I know he pitched a shutout from a pressure perspective this past week. How has he individually looked relative to what you guys were getting from Tyron Smith before he was put on injured reserve?
Well, as you mentioned, last week he was very good. He did not allow a pressure in any of his pass blocking snaps. Tyron Smith's been a disappointment this year. I think heading into the season, the perception in the fan base and people surrounding the team was that the danger with Tyron Smith was the question whether he would stay healthy or not, because this is a guy who has frequently missed time, and now he's missed a couple of games due to injury, an injury he suffered against the Arizona Cardinals. But it's been a struggle for Tyron Smith. He actually, I think, has been surprisingly the weak link on the offensive line for the Jets. Now, I still think he was playing at a level where he was a passable starter, but you have to remember this team had Super Bowl ambitions. And if you want to be a Super Bowl team, having a top end left tackle is something that really helps you along. I don't think the Jets would have signed up for what they've gotten out of Tyron Smith this year, which is maybe a mid-tier to low-level starter. Olu Fashanu has struggled for most of the time he's been in the lineup this year. Now, to be fair to him, he's kind of bounced around the line. As the primary swing tackle, he had to be the backup at left tackle and right tackle. And Morgan Moses missed time earlier this season. Fashanu played right tackle. Jets guard situation became kind of messy. They had a couple injuries. He had to play a little guard, which is something he's not used to. Is it a case where he's now at his more natural position and playing better? I don't know. I think it's physically, maybe he needs to hit the weight room a little bit. I think there are times he has been pushed around when he's played other positions this season. But I think what you'd like to see flashes. For me, rookie tackles struggle. That's just, unless it's somebody like Joe Alt, who's like a natural plug and play guy, rookie tackles are going to struggle. If you look recent history, there aren't many rookie tackles, even guys drafted in the first round, who have played well year one. Year one's kind of a learning year. You want to see flashes where he puts it together. You say, what, if he plays like that consistently, we've got a player. And I think that's what we saw against Seattle. I think what he did against Seattle was better than what we've seen most of the year from Tyron Smith. Over the course of the year, it's been a struggle for Olu, but you like the way he's trending.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you on the defensive side of the ball. I know there's been some personnel changes up front. And then Sauce Gardner, I know, has been a little bit more up and down, and I know he's banged up now. What's kind of the vibe with Sauce, and then just your overall perspective of a Jets team that still measures pretty well in yards allowed, but is kind of middle of the pack this year as far as points allowed defensively?
Yeah, the Jets defense, I think, is not as good as its statistics would indicate. I think that they've kind of benefited in some ways from their schedule. They had a couple early games against opponents that were not very gifted offensively. Jeff Ulbrich spoke to the media on Wednesday. He sounded very pessimistic about Sauce Gardner's ability to play. Ulbrich mentioned that, going up against receivers who have the speed Miami's receivers have, you don't want somebody being less than 100%. Frankly, and this is just my guess, it's an educated guess, I think with the team at 3-9, with the team out of the playoff race, there's no point in putting Sauce Gardner on the field and getting him risking further injury. I think if this team was more competitive, they were in the middle of the playoff race, that would be more of a consideration. I think a lot of the defensive struggles are predicated on the offense, the defensive line. I think Quinnen Williams, after a slow start, is having a quality season, but you're not getting great performances elsewhere. Now, Will McDonald, second-year guy out of Iowa State, has 10 sacks. He's had a lot of plays where he's been unblocked, a lot of sacks that aren't repeatable, but he's developed into a quality pass rusher. He's generating pressure at a really high rate. I think he's a player going forward. Elsewhere on the defensive line, you saw a lot of guys who helped the team last year go out the door in the offseason. You saw John Franklin Myers get traded. You saw Bryce Huff leave in free agency for Philadelphia. And although he's not playing very well for the Eagles, he was an important contributor for the defensive line last year. Quentin Jefferson leaves. guys who have replaced them have been ineffective. Javon Kinlaw has been a failed free agent signing. Jets gave him $7 million guaranteed. Robert Saleh coached him in San Francisco. Saleh was the defensive coordinator when they drafted him. They were hoping he was kind of a reclamation project they could work on. It has not panned out. The Hassan Reddick trade, I mean, I think everybody knows the saga that's been. He held out early in the season, and he has not been productive in the lineup. In fact, I saw him Sunday. I saw him get to the quarterback twice on Sunday. Once was after he was blocked for like 4 or 5 seconds. The coverage held, and finally he was able to break through. Second, he missed a blank sack on Geno Smith. It hasn't worked out for Hassan Reddick, and the defensive line is just not what it was a year ago. And I think that's the root cause of a lot of the inconsistencies you've seen from this Jets defense.
I want to give you the opportunity to grill me on the Dolphins side of this matchup as well, which we will do next here on this Crossover Thursday episode on the Locked On Network. So make sure that you stick with us. You can tackle the rest of the NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view the live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page as where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with that $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet at FanDuel.com. The spread for Sunday's game between the Jets and the Dolphins, Miami currently favored as of Wednesday when we were recording by 6.5 points. If you like the Jets on the money line, you could get that at over plus 200. John's trying to give you some friendly advice, but it's you and your hunch. Never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Time is our most precious commodity. Don't waste it doom scrolling on social media after either the Dolphins or Jets lose on Sunday. Use that time and invest it wisely into yourself. Our sponsor, Hillsdale College, is offering more than 40 free online courses, including Constitution 101, The Great American Story, Rise and Fall of the Roman Republic, and more. All of Hillsdale's courses are self-paced, so you can start whenever and tune in wherever. Plus, you can go deeper with quizzes, readings, and discussions, or just enjoy the lectures. Go right now to hillsdale.edu/lockedon to enroll. There's no cost, and it is easy to get started. That is hillsdale.edu/lockedon to register. hillsdale.edu/lockedon. All right, John, I'm going to hand the baton to you now. What can I tell you about this Dolphins season that has had its own fair share of frustrations and ups and downs?
Well, I think I want to start at the quarterback position because the Dolphins are kind of an interesting team because I think the team they're putting on the field in the second half is different from the team they put on the field in the first half, and that's mainly because of everything Tua Tagovailoa went through. So I guess how has this team been different since Tua returned, and I guess how has it been the same?
So I think the thing that a lot of Dolphins fans have questions about is this was a very explosive play reliant team last year. And I think the games against the Jets were good showcases of that, where there's times where maybe you have a hard time running the football, but then you hit a fade from the slot and you get a chunk play and it kind of sets you up in scoring territory. And then you play the field position battle and then you get a chunk run and then you get a touchdown. That really has not been the identity of this group since Tua Tagovailoa came back. And in the 7 quarters he played before he got injured, you could tell based off schematically what they were trying to use as core principles, that they were trying to do some new things and introduce some new elements. And it just frankly wasn't working particularly well. So when they came back, it became much more of a traditional West Coast efficiency style passing attack that has led to a spreading of the football around that this team did not do. It was Tyreek Hill on the pursuit of 2,000 yards on an annual basis his first 2 years in Miami. And we're very much off of that pace now, where he's neck and neck for the team lead in receiving yards with tight end Jonnu Smith, who has just 6 less receiving yards than he does. They're averaging almost equal yards per reception, and Tyreek only has 9 additional targets on the season than Jonnu does. So you have 3 receivers over 600 yards between those two and Jalen Waddle. Devon Achane as a big piece out of their backfield that they find touches for. So it's like Jalen Waddle's production has relatively been on pace for what it was in previous years. And it's like they took 40% of Tyreek Hill's production and spread it across Jonnu Smith and Devon Achane. So that opportunity to have more pathways to go with the football has led to a little bit more balanced attack. It's a lot more underneath stuff because teams are playing these high shells and they're taking free access. And it's just very efficient quarterback play. And it's unfortunate it has not been able to be tethered to the consistency in the run game that it looked like the team was building when Tua was out, because they are now without starting right tackle Austin Jackson, who's on injured reserve for the rest of the year. And his absence has been felt as far as the ability to create movement at the point of attack.
Yeah, I think, coming in from afar, the names Dolphins fans of Dolphins opponents know are, Tua Tagovailoa, and then the two receivers, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. You may have alluded to this a little bit when answering the last question, but who are some of the other key players in this Dolphins attack?
Yeah, I think offensively, Jonnu Smith has kind of become the straw that stirs the drink. And when you asked Mike McDaniel in the offseason about Jonnu Smith, he talked about when you get drop 7 and drop 8 coverage and teams are content to play you with a lot of depth, if you are going to do that, having a 240-pound player with explosiveness that can create yards after the catch was what the ideal opportunity was there for Jonnu Smith. And you've really seen that manifest for Jonnu. He's been a high efficiency player. He's catching almost 80% of his targets. And he is doing a very good job of finding space and getting up the field and creating extra yards. So as much as you might assume Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, they're not taking those tight window throws from 15 to 20 yards that are in breakers, that are cutting between the numbers and the hash. Like, they're staying away from those throws. And I feel like part of that is because they are running Hill and Waddle at a higher snap usage than they were last year. So they want to limit some of the body blows that those guys are taking in those tight window areas. Now, they'll still run them, but if you're going to compress on them, they're just going to say, okay, we're not getting the suction down on the hook defender that we want. We're going to throw the hitch underneath to Jonnu Smith, and he's going to turn upfield and go get 12 yards. So that's the way that they've taken what the core identity of their in-breaking routes and middle of the field passing attack has been, and they've sewn something into it where if you're going to be content to sink and take that away, they're now going to be content to just take the easy completions. A lot of it runs through Jonnu.
I know Dolphins installed a new defense this year. What can you tell us about the new system?
The system's been great. I think Anthony Weaver has a lot of really good coverage rotations and exotic looks and forces you to process. The problem's been personnel. When they've been down all of their starters on in the edge group. I mean, they have first-round pick Job Robinson, who was supposed to be the third guy, if not the fourth guy. Well, Shaq Barrett retired before the season started. So then you sign Emmanuel Ogbah. Shaq Barrett decided he didn't want to retire 4 days before the deadline for retiring players to come back for the season. And Miami said, we're going to hold off on this. So Emmanuel Ogbah has been playing a ton of snaps. Jalen Phillips was back for 3.5 games before he partially tore his ACL and was out for the rest of the year. And Bradley Chubb just had his practice window open yesterday as people are listening to this on Thursday. Whether or not he play, I would be stunned if he plays against the Jets. But that has meant you've had very little in the way of organic pass rush if it's not coming from Chop Robinson. And then in the secondary, you've had Kendall Fuller's been in concussion protocol twice and missed time. It sounds like he'll probably be back for this game, but he'd missed the last 2 games. Their nickel Cater Kohu hurt his back and had a neck issue, missed 2 games earlier in the season, and now he hurt his back against Green Bay. Don't know if we're going to see him. Cam Smith, their second-round pick from 2023, separated his shoulder. Hasn't really been playing well all that much to begin with the opportunities that he's had. So I think the scheme's been much better than the personnel on the defensive side of the ball just because they haven't been able to get their guys on the field. Now, what that means against talented players like Garrett Wilson and Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers as a savvy quarterback who's going to get up to the line of scrimmage and probably see some matchups and try to be aggressive and take some shots. I think that's going to be one of the telling pieces of the puzzle for this football game.
So my last question is just a general question because I know the Dolphins are still in the playoff race. It's going to be a tough road to climb. There's a couple of games out from the last playoff spot, but you do get the Jets twice before the season ends. How confident is this? How much confidence is there that this team can go on a run to end the season?
I think the fan base has pretty close to zero. I would say the group internally I will be very interested to see how they come out and play after the Thanksgiving game, which they had a negative game script early. You blinked and they were down 14 points. A lot of guys, I would imagine, would want that game back from an effort and a tackling perspective defensively. But they had strung together 3 wins and shown the ability to play some complementary football. I'm sure they have a bottom 5 strength of schedule remaining from a win percentage perspective. They've kind of believed this entire time that they're capable of doing this, and it has to be one game at a time. I would expect there's no opportunity for letdown games at this point in the season. So it's going to be very telling, I think, how this team comes out and plays from an efficiency standpoint and a tackling standpoint, because those are the things that killed them against the Packers. Now, we're going to get into some keys to victory. That is where we're going to finish this crossover Thursday episode. John Butchko, Locked On Jets, Kyle Krabs, Locked On Dolphins. Make sure you guys stick with us. With big wireless providers, what you see is never what you get. Somewhere between your store and the first month's bill, the price you thought you were paying magically skyrockets. With Mint Mobile, you'll never have to worry about gotchas ever again. When Mint Mobile says $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan, they mean it. Say bye-bye to your overpriced wireless plans, jaw-dropping monthly bills, and unexpected overages. Mint Mobile is here to rescue you with premium wireless plans starting at $15 a month. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with your existing contacts. Ditched overpriced wireless with Mint Mobile's deal and get 3 months of premium wireless service for $15 a month. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/lockedonnfl. That's mintmobile.com/lockedonnfl. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/lockedonnfl. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speeds slower, above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. Okay, John. 3, if you had to pick, 3 keys to victory for New York in your mind for the Jets coming down and playing this game in Miami Gardens in Week 14.
All right. Well, number 1, don't throw a pick 6 on a Hail Mary. Actually, we have a huge upgrade. We have the Hail Mary king now, Aaron Rodgers, which we didn't have last year during the Black Friday fiasco for the Jets. No, I'm not joking. I mean, they can't throw a pick 6 on a Hail Mary. That's not one of my actual keys, though. I think number 1, Jets need to get off to a fast start. And I'm looking at the game script Todd Downing is going to put together. Mm-hmm. Downing's first couple of weeks, he replaced Nathaniel Hackett 5 games into the season, as he's not technically the offensive coordinator. Technically, Hackett's still employed. He kept his offensive coordinator title. The Jets, I guess, were trying to be nice to him. Todd Downing is now running the offense, though. He's the guy in charge. He's calling the plays. First couple of weeks, we saw creativity out of him. We saw a lot of unique formations, passing concepts that kind of manufactured free releases for receivers. And as the season's progressed, we've seen kind of a reversion to what they were running under Nathaniel Hackett. A lot of static formations, a lot of just win one-on-one. If you can't win one-on-one, the play can't work. I think it's important it's always important to get off to a good start, but it's really important for the Jets to get off to a fast start in this game, because the last time they were on the road, it was a couple weeks back against Arizona. The Cardinals went right down the field, scored a couple early touchdowns, and the Jets team kind of checked out. Maybe not be a polite thing to say, but you didn't see the effort from that team after they fell behind early. You saw, you didn't see guys like rallying to sell the football on defense. You didn't see guys, finish plays. And I think it's easy when you're 3-9, when the season's over, when you're looking to the off season, it's kind of easy to check out. So I'm looking at the script, get off to a good start. Number 2, I think Quinnen Williams needs to play a big game for the Jets. As we mentioned, Sauce Gardner's probably going to miss this game, which means rookie Quantez Stiggers would step into the starting lineup. Stiggers is a rookie out of the CFL. He was drafted out of the CFL. I think he's the first player ever drafted out of the CFL. Really interesting story. I mean, they're going to make a movie about his life where he never played college football. His father died tragically. He kind of stepped away from the game. his mother like had some connection. His mother signed him up to play this minor pro league. I think it was like an indoor league. He got the attention of this guy who worked in the CFL. He ended up getting connected eventually with the Toronto Argonauts, but because he had never entered the NFL draft, he actually entered the NFL draft straight from the CFL. So amazing life story, but he's a rookie stepping into a starting lineup against a very talented receiver group. It can be a tough matchup. I think we remember last year, the game the Jets played in Miami, Tyreek Hill was out, but DJ Reed had a lot of trouble with Jalen Waddle. Jets are going to need to give these corners help against this receiver group, which means that the defensive line is going to need to play big. And Quinnen Williams is the one guy on the defensive line who's capable of carrying the load in that way. So I think the Jets are going to need to get a big game out of Quinnen Williams. And the third is avoid turnovers, which I guess could be a key to any week, but Jets are the Jets are less talented of the two teams. They're on the road. You have to avoid mistakes. When you're the underdog, you can't give the other team short fields. You can't, come away from drives in the red zone without points. Jets had two big turnovers in last week's game against the Seattle Seahawks. They were up 21-7. They were on the verge of scoring a touchdown to go up 3 scores, or even, if you even kick a field goal to go up 3 scores in the second quarter. Aaron Rodgers throws a pick six to Leonard Williams. A lot of people, you probably saw that if you watched the highlights, but there was another big turnover. Breece Hall had a big fumble in the second half. Jets just had an epic goal line stand where they stopped the Seahawks 8 straight plays from inside the 5-yard line. There were some penalties that extended that drive, and they looked like they were finally putting together a decent drive, and maybe the drive to take control of the game. Then Breece Hall fumbled the ball away. Seahawks scored 10 points in the fourth quarter. Jets need to do a better job protecting the football in this game. So those are my 4 keys, if you include the don't throw a pick six on the Hail Mary.
I think not throwing a pick six on a Hail Mary is a great place to start, and should be something every team aspires for in every game that they play.
And every team's done it except the Jets. The Jets are the only, every team's accomplished that except the Jets last year against Miami.
If I think about this game for Miami, I agree with what you said about, especially if Sauce Gardner doesn't go, how that changes the math of the secondary against Miami's receiving core. I think that what the Dolphins need to be able to do is find some semblance of success on outside run to set up their play action and create that horizontal conflict from linebackers. And they have not done a great job running the ball in recent weeks. Now, I think they showcased some opportunity after Alec Ingle had missed 2 weeks, and his absence was really hurtful for their ability to run the ball. He's been back the last 2 weeks, but the game script really did not set itself up for Mike McDaniel to stay balanced and call a disciplined game, which he tends to do when you fall behind. He gets away from the running game very quickly. The Dolphins had 39 rushing yards against the Packers, but there were a number of their outside runs where the tight ends, for the first time in a while, showcased good ability to secure and sustain blocks on the edge with Alec Ingle's return. I'm not saying you got to come up and run the ball 30 times if you're Mike McDaniel, but just having some early game success running the ball because you have this speed with Quincy Williams at linebacker. You want to create conflict. If they're going to try to help build more leverage for the corners on the outside, that puts a little bit more space responsibility onto the linebackers in New York. And if you get that outside run going to create that flow, Jonnu Smith can work back across the grain on that, and you can create that horizontal conflict in the middle of the field. I think that's a really big thing for Miami in this game. They have to tackle even 30% better than what they did against Green Bay. Pro Football Focus credited them with 23 missed tackles against Green Bay in the cold, and it's obviously a big storyline, and we'll talk about the cold on January 5th when these two teams are getting ready to play in Week 18, I'm sure. But the tackling was horrendous, and it half of Green Bay's yards came after contact in the game on Thursday and Thanksgiving. So I think that's a big thing for them defensively. And then I would say they need to space the field offensively. I don't have any faith in their ability to get pressure on Aaron Rodgers as a bullet point, because Rodgers does get the ball out fast. This team is 31st in the NFL in sacks at this point this year. So I'm not going to put any time and energy there. You want to change the picture, make him process post-snap. But all of the best things that Miami is doing offensively is coming from your ability to create space, force a defense to declare itself from a leverage perspective, and take free access and stay ahead of the sticks. Now, when you start getting into the compressed sets, I think that's when things start happening faster. You're inviting more bodies in. So if a player does have an error, it can compound on you quickly or more quickly. So that for me is, I would love to see them against an aggressive defense that has a lot of speed like the Jets. to space the field and force them, if they're going to come after you, if they're going to be aggressive, to be able to see it coming a little bit because you've spread everything out and can take those efficient completions. That's where my mind's at for Miami coming into this game. So we've now set the stage. Dolphins and Jets, Week 14, Hard Rock Stadium, AFC East Showcase. We've now sufficiently previewed it here on the Crossover Thursday episode here on the Locked On Network. For John Butchko, I'm Kyle Krabs. We appreciate you guys for checking out the show. Check out Locked On Jets for all of your Jets needs, Locked On Dolphins for all of your Dolphins needs, and all of the Locked On Network for all of your favorite teams, because it is your team every day. We don't just say it, we live it here on the Locked On Network. Enjoy the game on Sunday, and we will talk to you all again soon.